It's your future. Take control of it. Here's author, businessman, Michael S. Robinson.
Hello, I'm Michael Robinson, President and CEO of Microbin Incorporated and author of the book 100 Pennies. I'm talk show host on AM 970 The Answer every Saturday at 2 p.m. and also on my internet radio station, microbinradio.com. Just download our app from the App Store or Google Play. This Saturday, we're going to be talking about the millennials. Is there a generation gap in terms of communication? And with me is my producer, who also happens to be a millennial, Christopher Kitchen. Christopher, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Welcome. So we're going to be talking about this question that oftentimes comes up in the news, on social media. Millennials, are they entitled? Is there a sense of narcissism and entitlement? What are your thoughts?
Yes, there's no denying it. There is part of the millennial population feels entitled. They feel they are narcissistic, whether they like to agree with it or not. That's what they kind of portray out there, whether it is on social media or the personalities in real life.
Why?
It breaks down into, the way they were raised, the culture they surround themselves in, and technology.
So you're saying that the way some millennials, because I'm sure that everybody is not in the same category, right, feeling entitled because of the fact that their parents have done something to give them that sense of entitlement.
Yes.
What is it exactly?
Whether it's them telling them that they can do anything they want, or it's the fact that, people surround themselves with other people that say, like, oh, I'm going to think like this. They're going to say the government should pay for our school.
Right.
So
right. Therefore, Bernie Sanders, that's one of the biggest movements. A lot of the people that were following him were millennials, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay, so we have this sense that there's a duty that society has to that group.
Absolutely.
But then, on the other hand, there's a sense of social responsibility. I have a lot of millennial friends that are wanting to ensure that everybody has equal rights. It doesn't matter what your race or your religion or your sexual orientation is. It's that sense of wanting inclusivity, which I think is a very progressive way of thinking. It adds to our social narrative, which I think helps to progress our community forward. And then there's sustainability issues, people wanting the fact that green technology is more prevalent, the fact that we're taking care of our planet, which I think adds to this narrative of wanting progressiveness in our social environment. So what has brought about this sense of responsibility when it comes to society, but when it comes to individuals, there's a sense of me, as it's seen or talked about?
So let's start with the progressive society idea. So you have a lot of, when we're growing up, a lot of kids, they see peace on earth, everybody holding hands, and that's almost
the flower children.
Exactly. That's almost a part of it.
Right.
We see these ideas on like children's shows, whether it's Elmo, Barney, or things like that. And these ideas, they resonate well with us because nobody wants to see anybody sad or depressed or struggling out there. We all want to help each other out. So that's one of the biggest things, is that we see these ideas when we're kids, and we want to kind of bring them up with us.
So you're saying that television was an influencer?
Television, technology, social media. We see these green technology. We see cool stuff. Elon Musk is trending amongst many millennials.
Right.
Everybody sees the Tesla car. They see solar panel roofs.
Right.
These are things that are popular with younger generations who are seeing evolving technology.
So we also see Kim Kardashian.
There's the other side.
Why does people look to that brand as something to admire or embrace?
So millennials, we become narcissistic with our looks, with our appearances, and then they look to celebrities for their looks and appearances. Kim Kardashian and her entire family, they embody this brand, and they're able to become so successful because of the millennials. This is what we want. This is what we see. With the invention of the front-facing camera and the term the selfie.
Thank goodness for that.
Exactly. It's kind of we've evolved into this. Very narcissistic, very, we want the likes on Facebook or on Instagram whenever we post a photo, or we want people to view our Snapchats, or we want them to like and favorite our tweets.
So tell me about your upbringing. I want to know about your parents. What did they tell you? I mean, in terms of a narrative that's consistent to have brought you to this place of understanding?
So for me,
because you're pretty grounded, you're pretty stable, you've got ambition, you've got a sense of duty and responsibility. You're at work every time, every day on time, which is fantastic. So what brought you to this place in terms of a narrative from your parents?
So my dad specifically, who's very, very corporate America. And so I have that part, to thank for him. He's talking about careers and businesses in school. So he's very certain, and he did it, not so in a way that's like forcing me to do it, but like sort of giving me an idea of like what I want to do, and maybe here's how I could do it. And I appreciate that from him. And then for my mom, she's very down to earth. My mom, when I was a child, she was a stay-at-home mom. So she wanted to make everything nice and pleasant for my stay while I was there with her. So I kind of get the down-to-earth side from her and the social responsibility side from my dad. Hopefully one day I get to provide for my own family.
Right,
and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I want to, help progress in the world. So things like that.
So what are the views from your perspective that you think encapsulates the millennial ideology from your perspective? What views do you have?
I feel like there's a lot of unused potential out there.
Okay.
Anybody who complains or feels like they're entitled, they could easily go out and do their own thing so they don't have to complain. A lot of people that do complain, they really have no say at all because they don't really do anything. We just heard in the last election that almost 50% of the millennials didn't even go out and vote.
Right.
So, that if they wanted things to really change, or they didn't want whoever, came out of it to win, then maybe why not get up and go vote? Or things like that. Why not, you might think as student loans, they might be really, daunting, really big. People say $30,000 student loans. But what happens if you get a job, your starting job that pays you 40, 50 grand a year, and then you're able to make those monthly payments and make it, a sustainable debt, manageable even. So there's not really much to worry about, because people go and, they spend $300,000 in a house with a down payment, and then they pay that, they pay their mortgages for over the 15 years, and then they own the house. Who say they can't pay down their student loans in less than 10 years, 5 years.
So you're saying finding sustainable ways to live your life that you can afford and not living outside of your means.
Exactly. Or don't imagine to live outside your means.
Right, right. Well, I think that's just it's not a generational thing, it's an everybody thing.
Yeah.
Everyone lives outside their means in every generation. Yeah. So it's a matter of understanding the gap in terms of communication that I have seen as being the main problem. So somebody who's in their late 20s, talking to somebody who's in their late 60s, there is a certain sense of communication dysfunction because their ideology might be different. How do you propose that gap be bridged?
You find a common ground. Whether, comedy, whether it's through interests, if it could be anything from talking about political science to, inventions in the world, you just find something. You find a common ground that you guys can relate to each other with. So
you walk into a room and there's a gentleman sitting there, he's 72 years old, and he's like, "Hey Chris, what's going on?"
Nothing much. I would like to talk to you about
your cell phone rings and your girlfriend is texting you. You pick the phone up and respond, or you have a conversation with him?
Me personally, I find the best conversations be person to person. I don't like really interruptions myself.
So it's a matter of etiquette then.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So it's understanding, the social mores and protocols when interacting with people. At the end of the day, that's really what it's about, right? We are a people of communication. We're a people of verbal and visual and audio communication, and we have to be able to implement that no matter how advanced we become technologically. We talk about 50 years from now that maybe technology is so advanced that we're not really talking anymore, which is very sad, because I think talking is one of the most important things that we can do to build bridges in our humanity. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Michael, for having me.
Saturday, we're going to be talking about millennials on the Michael S. Robinson Show. So join us. We want to hear your point of view. Follow me on Twitter, MSRobinsonNY, and also I am on Facebook. Look for me. I'm Michael Robinson. This is your time. Use it wisely.